how much you're able to keep in touch with each of those players that obviously you're coaching on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, that's been our number one priority, Rich, through the whole thing, is just checking on the welfare of our guys. We're calling all of them every week, and then we're meeting with them 2 to 3 times a week as well, as a unit, not as an offensive unit, but as different position groups, and just spending time just talking to them and checking on their families, and that trumps anything we can talk to them about football right now. So we're trying to make sure that first of all. I think second, checking on those guys academically and making sure they're keeping pace with everything they've got going on. And we realize it's a little bit of a different situation for them. It's taking some adjusting as far as keeping up with assignments and online learning and that type thing. So trying to help them out with that as much as we can. Not that we can tutor them in calculus, but just to kind of keep them on task and make sure they're getting what they need in terms of help, making sure they're asking for help. And then I think the third thing is just keeping them engaged with each other in football. And that takes a back seat right now, and we want to make sure we're not putting too much of a burden on them with everything else they've got going on. But I think that they've welcomed the opportunity to talk football in a group setting. And I think it's probably making us better coaches too, because you have to come up with new ways to get your point across. And I know 3 weeks ago I'd never heard of Zoom, and now it's a huge part of my life, and I feel like I know how to navigate it. And it's been a great tool for getting those guys around each other. And what we've done is use this time offensively to really slow down our install. We don't know how long we have, but now's the time to really be detailed. We've got a lot of young guys on offense that we were excited to be in spring practice. But our goal is to make sure that when we resume, whenever that might be, that we're not learning as much as we are just repping the things we already know. And so that takes, we're trying to make sure they understand the schemes, not just know what they do. So that's kind of been our focus as far as football goes right now. And I think we're really making progress with some of the young guys, and that's encouraging. Selfishly, all of us would want to be back out there on the field, especially the way we ended the season, so that's a disappointing part of it. I know they're chomping at the bit as well to kind of get that edge back that Army football has. But what we want to do, everybody's doing something right now, Rich, and we want to make sure that we're doing more. And not necessarily the quantity, but the quality of what we're doing, so that, whenever we get, back rolling, that we've gained an edge on the people that we play.
And Nate, just you coming in, this is going to be your first year at West Point. Obviously, it's challenging. It's not like a spring practice like you've, I'm sure, experienced in the past. I'm sure you wanted to implement certain things. How challenging is it? Are you able to make these maybe structural scheme changes, doing it over video conference instead of out on the football field?
I think the one thing that it gives us is a chance to get together and spend an awful lot of time with our staff. Being able to spend this much time through Zoom with our defensive staff meetings allows us to go over concepts that may give us problems in certain fronts or coverages, and to do a great job of covering that with every position involved, as far as understanding what we're willing to give up on defense and what we want to take away with each one of these calls. So getting everybody on the same page with these meetings has been great. Now, do we have the players here? No, we don't. But we can now take these concepts that we're talking about with our staff and relay that to our players over Zoom meetings, position meetings with those guys, and not consume them with hour-long meetings or anything like that. What we can do is give them an awful lot of fundamentals with film that they can look at. We can give them teaching tapes that they can go through and understand the install of our defense, and keep it short, because it looks like this is going to be extended, somewhat. So what we miss out on a little bit is evaluation of personnel, but what we gain in that respect is making sure that we're on the same page as far as assignment, understanding of the defense, and I believe that will help us execute our defense much better as far as them understanding their assignment and understanding the why of the call. Why are we doing this or why are we doing that? And then being able to relate that to each position, that they're able to see, their role in the call or the defense, their responsibility within the scheme of the defense, and then how that relates to someone else's fit in the defense.
Thanks, Nate. Thanks, Brent.
All right, up next we have Dean Darling, also of the Army Sports Network.
Allie, can you hear me okay?
Yep, you are coming in great.
All right, I'll start out with Coach Davis. Coach Davis, at the quarterback position, can individuals practice certain techniques that are key to that position without the benefits of a team session?
That's a little bit difficult as far as the option game goes,
Yeah.
Dean. You need somebody to mesh up with and do those things. Certainly they can practice the footwork, and that was something that they were already doing on their own in player-led practices that you're allowed to have, during the off season. So those guys, I'm sure are working on some of that on their own. As far as working with other guys, I think some of the guys have been able to throw to some of their buddies that might be around their hometown, they've been able to kind of pull that off. Those that have fields that are still open, like that. So that might be possible, but we're going to have plenty of time to get ready as far as fundamentally with those guys. And, they've already got a good enough background in what they're doing to where I don't think that's going to be an issue. Really, we're focused more right now on the mental aspect of it and making sure they understand the schemes, for a quarterback, for example, how to get us in the right play, how to get us out of a bad play, what we're trying to accomplish overall with our offense. And the more each position knows about it, the more they can help out the guys around them. And that's something we're trying to get across to them to gain a better understanding overall and increase our football IQ right now. I think now's a good time to really work on that.
Thanks, Coach. Coach Woody, Dean Darling, Army Radio. And I apologize if Rich already asked this question. I was trying to get on. What type of scheme are you going to incorporate into the defense this fall? And without spring ball, how does that affect your implementation?
We want a scheme that allows the guys to be flexible and be able to bring pressure from several different attack points. I think that as I was a young coach, we went from an even front to, after about 5 or 6 years, to an odd front. And that odd front is a 3-4 for us, and it's been something that I've used ever since. Every year that I've been a defensive coordinator, we've used the 3-4, and then we'll move into a 4-down or even front in some passing situations. Not as much out of the run. So we're looking to play with 2 inside backers, 2 outside backers. We'll generally put one of the safeties into the boundary, the other safety to the field. Likewise with the corners, one of the corners will be predominantly into the boundary, the other one to the field, and outside linebackers as well. The better pass rusher is going to be the guy that lines up into the boundary of the weak side of the formation, and our better cover guy to the field or to the passing string. So defensive line wise, what we like to do is be able to attack and not just eat up blocks. I think if we can get to a point with our defensive line to where they can beat blocks, now all of a sudden you're making tackles for little or no gain or a loss. And if you're not relying on your linebackers to make all those plays, then that's a great thing. So we're going to give them a little bit of freedom to pin their ears back and attack. and yet there's going to be some framework that they have to stay within, to execute their responsibility scheme of the defense.
And just the follow up, how does this affect you? I know you're bringing this 34 defense, but without spring ball, how does that affect the implementation, and how much of a catch up time is there once you get on the field?
Well, I think what we're in the business of doing as coaches is solving problems, and what we can't do right now is worry about spring practice or player-led practice or anything like that. Right now, we just don't have access to it. What we can do is use an awful lot of this time to implement the things that are most important to the guys. We want to teach them how to play fast, and if you play fast and you're going the wrong direction, then you just get further away from the play, and that ain't necessarily a good thing. So what we're doing is just using what we have available to us, and that is meetings with our staff, meetings with our players, and we like to keep that short because we want them to come out of each of these meetings hungry for more. And if after we get out of our meetings, we offer tutorial meetings as well, supplemental meetings that they are, if they feel like they need it, they're able to jump in and get it. But we just want to keep things short and sweet for them right now. Keep football, football is there for them. But the most important thing right now is convincing a lot of these guys. Make sure you understand, what this, what's out there is real. Let's be safe in everything that we do. So we're not asking them to congregate in any form or fashion to try to mimic some of our plays or things like that. Everything is off of film, and there's an awful lot of film that we can give them and that they can learn off of. So right now, that's what they're doing. They're learning an awful lot of concepts and techniques off of our teaching tapes.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you, Allie.
Awesome. Thanks, Dean. So next up we have John Kikis from the AP.
Hey, Coach Davis, there was a pretty wild video yesterday about how the guys are working out with cement blocks and stuff like that. Do you guys worry about these guys getting injuries?
Really don't, because all of them are really very well trained in how to warm up. I mean, Coach Hughes and his staff, they do an amazing job. So I think our guys really understand what it takes to get ready for a workout. I don't think they're just going right into it and start throwing weight around, they're pretty much going through their dynamic movement warm-up every time they go out there to do something. He does a great job of communicating with them. Hey, here's how you need to start. That's something they can all do every day, whether they have any equipment or not, is go through the stretching routine. And so I don't really worry about it. Those guys are I think, really well trained, and I know they're still working hard at whatever they have available there at their house. So.
How hard do you think it is for these guys? They're used to state-of-the-art equipment.
Yeah, I know a lot of them. Our weight room's as good as there is in the country, and I know they miss it. That's time that they really value. They really love going in the weight room. We got a team full of guys that love to work out and develop. I know they miss being around each other and pushing each other, so that's something I know they miss. We have the kind of guys that are very resilient, though. I know they're making the most of whatever they have at home. Coach Hughes has been sending equipment to them, bands and protein shakes and any resource that they don't have. He's trying to facilitate them as best he can. And our strength staff doing an amazing job keeping those guys going. And, you may not be able to make gains during this time when you don't have access to a premier weight room. But if they can maintain, what they've got and not lose a lot of their strength and really the flexibility part for a lot of them is big, during this time. And they can, whenever we get to resume, where they didn't take a step backwards, I think we'll be in good shape getting ready to play.
What do you think the most difficult thing is for your players?
Probably being away from each other. Honestly, we've got a really tight-knit team. And you can tell when we get them around each other in these Zoom meetings. I mean, that's why we really like to give them time to just cut up and have fun talking to each other and catch up, because I think they're each other's support network, and especially at West Point, it's a difficult place to navigate, and we've got a tough football program that we work really hard, and they really push each other along, and help each other navigate this place. And so I think they missed that for sure. And one thing we're going to try to do is, just like we're going to have a unit meeting tonight on offense, and a lot of the time we're going to spend just dividing them up into different groups and letting them see guys they haven't seen probably, and kind of let them, just cut up for a while. We may give them a couple things to talk about, but just get them around each other. I think that's probably what they miss the most.
Thanks, Coach. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. So next up, we have Kayla Jackson from Against All Enemies and SB Nation.
Good morning.
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 You're breaking up.
Yeah, I think it was a little staticky. Can you try to re-ask that, Kayla?
To Coach Davis.
You get that, Coach Davis?
I didn't get that. I'm sorry. Anybody else get it?
Do you want to try that one more time, Kayla? It was going in and out.
A little bit about working with seniors and spring ball. Can you talk about kind of working ball with the losses and value technology? Can anyone hear me?
I kind of in and out. I heard the technology part. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Spring ball. I couldn't.
Testing now. How about now?
That's better.
Yeah.
All right. Apologies. Can you talk about just working with the younger guys on the team, the rookies specifically, obviously with spring ball, a good opportunity to evaluate those position groups. Are you doing anything specifically to kind of keep them engaged, talking with some of the vets on the team about how to just, keep up to practice and not get discouraged during this time?
Sure. I think, first of all, when we meet with them, we're asking the young guys a lot of questions, and just kind of making sure that they can verbalize to us what we're trying to get across as far as the scheme and where they fit in the whatever scheme we're talking about or whatever technique we're talking about. And then I think, we're asking the older guys a lot of times to explain to them in their words, how they get that particular technique done or their understanding of it. So I think it involves the older guys kind of helping teach at the same time. That's, to me, the best coaches are always the guys that are in the huddle. The best leaders are always the guys that are in the huddle. So a lot of this time is maybe finding a way to empower some guys that we feel like are going to be leaders and guys that have a great understanding and help those guys if they have the ability to mentor them along, rather than it just coming from the coach. And then I've also tried to press upon them, hey guys, we don't have to call a Zoom meeting. If you need help or you want to, guys, if you want to get together on your own, you're certainly allowed to do that. If you need help, I guarantee you, if you reach out to an older guy who's done this, they're going to be there to help you. We'll help you as well. But sometimes the guys in the huddle have a knack for explaining things to them and as well. So one of our goals on offense is to try to give our unit ownership in what we're trying to do, and to where everyone's a coach and everyone takes ownership in each other's performance, and it's their offense. It's not our offense as coaches, and that's something that we've tried to do all the time. But now's a really good time to do that, I think, just with the different circumstances and with them being apart from each other. So, yeah, to answer your question, I think it's a challenge for sure, bringing the younger guys along without the physical reps. And that's why I mentioned, like, being able to get them to have a good enough understanding to where they're not learning when we resume. They're repping the actions, and then we can correct the physical part that way. So that's probably first and foremost what we can do now, get them an understanding of what we're doing.
And then for Coach Woody, obviously, like Rich had mentioned, this is quite, an unfortunate situation, but an introduction for you being kind of newer on the staff. Just what have you learned just from, being in the environment, being, one of the new staff members about what this Army football team is about?
You know what? I think I learned an awful lot about Army football when I was in Michigan. At the end of the game and during double overtime, this was a tough football team. That you come into West Point and you go through training that separates you from everybody else in the country, in the world, and it just makes you better, And each year that you're able to garner some of these lessons, from these instructors, you get better and better and better. Not only in from a discipline standpoint, but leadership standpoint as well. I just saw that again when I was standing on the opposite sideline, how confident and how aggressive, how fast guys played, and you can go back and look at a 40 time and call that speed. But there's another kind of speed that you got to take into account as well, and that's the speed of processing. Things that you can see happening in front of you and how quickly you react to it is incredibly important in this ball game. If you look at Ray Lewis at a linebacker spot, a Hall of Famer, no doubt one of the best ever. I don't know that his 40 time was the greatest, but what he did though, he processed things quickly. He determined to run or pass fast, and then he played hard, and he moved and got to where he needed to be as good or better than anybody. So that's that's the part that we're trying to continue. As I come here and work at Army, is continue to get these guys to where they play with an awful lot of confidence and speed of thought. Tracking the football, and that's if you put a defense out on the football field that plays with an awful lot of confidence, not fake confidence. I mean real, to where you walk out there and you know what you're doing, and that you know how you're going to react, and you're going to play hard, and you're going to play fast, and guys are going to do it with you. Then that takes you an awful lot further in today's games than if it's just. If you're just trying to figure things out. Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely. Thank you to both of you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Kayla. So next up is Sal Interdonato from Times Herald Record.
Hey, Coach Davis, how are you?
I think you might have your mute on, so there you go.
Sorry about that. How's it going, Coach?
Good. How are you?
Good. Can you talk about bringing back Saga and Keith to the coaching staff, as well as adding Cody Worley to the staff?
Yeah, I love all three of those guys. They're really going to be great additions to our staff. First of all, Cody, did an outstanding job coaching the quarterbacks at Kennesaw State. He'd also coached the quarterbacks at the Citadel before in a similar system. Where he worked with Bob Bodine, who was the offensive coordinator there, who was here for a while. And everyone that talks about Cody, just the energy that he has and the ability to build relationships with the players under him. And he's done an awesome job already just bringing some new ideas just to the table, just things that are a little bit different maybe that they may have done at Kennesaw State and had success with, and still within the framework of what we do already. And so really excited to have him. Keith Gaither, obviously was here before, does an unbelievable job in his room, just establishing a culture and getting those guys to buy into the mission. As a matter of fact, he was the receiver coach. We had a sign made that hangs in the receiver room. They take on the road with them now. It says home of the most physical wide receivers in college football. and that was and it was true. And he does a great job developing that and getting those guys to buy in and play with confidence and make plays for us. And just excited to have him back. And then Songa is a tremendous teacher. And this guy's got a lot of experience in our offense. He was the interim head coach this past year. He's been an offensive coordinator. He's great conceptually, and then does a great job developing relationships with our players already. You can already see he's the kind of guy that they're going to gravitate towards. And all three of those guys are going to be great additions. So we feel great about our staff moving forward. We've had a chance to spend time with each other, and it's very cohesive. It's going to be a great group, and just excited to work with those guys and get better.
No doubt. Coach Woody, can you talk about how the personnel that you have right now fits your defensive scheme?
I think the personnel that we got now is played a scheme that's similar in design that I'm implementing. An odd front. The techniques may be just a little bit different, but when you go through a recruiting phase of trying to get the right players in the right type of players in the right positions, I think we've already got that here in place. So the more challenging thing is to make sure that we have all the coaches on the same page, and that we're all teaching things that offenses will try to attack, and not wasting time on the things that we don't have to waste time on, because I think a lot of times experience is a great equalizer in these team games, and where guys have been through experiences and they rely on their knowledge on how to react to different blocking schemes or different route progressions. That's a big deal, and to gain that experience from our staff, that was one of the things that was incredibly important to me. As when I came here, if I had guys that were on our defensive staff that had experience at multiple positions in this type of scheme, then they understood how their actions related to other positions and how it affected them. So, look at Coach Dixon has coached multiple positions in this defense. Coach Luce has coached multiple positions. And Greg Gasparotto, same thing. He's coached the front seven and the back end. Sheil Wood has done the same. He's coached several positions. And then, Tank Wright is a guy that understands the outside linebacker position as well as the defensive line. So everybody has got a really good understanding going forward. I think lending that understanding to the players who already were recruited to somewhat play in these type of positions and this scheme. I think that I think we're already there.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Ken Kreitzer, Sons of the American Legion Radio.
Thank you, Allie. Good to meet you, Coach Woody, and I cover the team for the American Legion and WVOX in New Rochelle, New York. Welcome.
Thank you.
I was just going to ask you, maybe you could run down your career. You played at Woker, were there for 12 years. You were at Appalachian State, a year under Paul Johnson at Georgia Tech, and then last year you saw Army up close and personal at Michigan. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about some of the learning you went through at each stage of your career.
I think you probably left out the most important stage. I think when I first got out of college, I went into the construction business, and down in Charleston, in South Carolina, with a good friend of mine who had just gotten out of the Corps of Engineers, James Metters, who in his own right was a great football player. Back then, he was a Kodak All-American, which was a pretty good pretty big deal back in the old days. But after working in the construction business, I missed football so much that I'd done anything in the world to get back into coaching. So when the opportunity presented itself to me, I jumped right in. So I was at Wofford for a pretty good while, and I coached as a position coach for a few years, and then I was coordinator there for 12 years. And then, heck, my wife said, "Hey, if we ever go somewhere, I'd like to go to the mountains." So spot opened up at Appalachian State, and went there for 5 years or so, and that we had a pretty good run there. And then back to Atlanta was where again we had family, my in-laws and all. So going back from Appalachian State to Atlanta and working at Georgia Tech with Paul Johnson was a great experience for me. I think he's a heck of a football coach. He knows an awful lot about the triple option, and it was great to be able to go to practice and play against that that type of option. Three backs in the backfield is to me one of the more difficult offenses to defend. I think with the multiplicity of blocking schemes that you get, and being attacked downhill, on the perimeter, or play action pass on almost virtually every play, it's hard to defend. So I got to spend a little time with Coach Johnson there, and then at Michigan, I went there. More than anything else, Don Brown had always been a guy that I had admired in how he was able to put together an attack style defense and marry it up with tight coverage and still stop the run and end up in as one of the top defenses year in and year out. So being able to work with him at Michigan was something that was extremely valuable to me, and I appreciate that time while I was there.
And Coach, maybe the offenses in college football today have become so pass oriented. Do you have a kind of a high level thought about pass defense?
Yeah, to stop the run. If you can get if teams can throw the football on either down, that puts you in a bit of a conflict. All right, whether you devote the extra player to the box or you devote that extra player to coverage. So if you can stop the run and get them into situations where they have to throw the football down the field to be successful, now you can sort of pin your ears back and go get them. And that's probably the best thing that I can say is from a coverage standpoint, I want to know that they're going to throw the football. And if they are, I want to get pressure to the quarterback. I want to affect the quarterback, whether physically or mentally. I want to affect him. And then I guess the other thing is this. I probably spent an awful lot of time in my career saying that if you can get your eyes on the ball, then you got a chance to get it. And if you can get interceptions or fumbles, then that's the name of the game, because go back and look at the stats. The people who win the turnover battle generally win the football game, high percentage of the time. So we try to get some overlap in our coverage to where if the quarterback is looking one way, we're able to break on the indicator's intentions.
Thank you, Coach. Al, can I get one for Brent?
Sure.
Coach, I always ask about the offensive line, and certainly last year you had 4 players at center, and you're replacing a number of seniors. You don't have spring practice. What are your keys for putting a new offensive line together this year?
I think, first of all, it's going to be great to get guys back healthy. You get a Peyton Reeder who played with a torn shoulder the entire season, and a J.B. Hunter who played with a meniscus in his knee the whole season, and they just weren't as themselves. They weren't as effective as they could be. So I think both of them had off-season surgery to get them get that corrected, and so I'm excited about that. Those guys have played a lot of winning football, and that's a good core to start with. Those two guys. JB Hunter, we're going to really try to work into at center now that he's healthy. I feel like that's going to be a great position for him, and showed spurts of it last year when we moved him in there and played some good football before he got a little banged up. But having him and Peyton Reeder to start off with, we feel really good about. Luke McCleary's a guy that has really come on, was outstanding in the winter workouts. Really, probably in the meetings, you can tell he's probably got the best understanding on our offensive line out of anybody as far as what we're trying to get accomplished. And he's helping out the guys around him. So we're really excited about Lucas and the kind of year he's going to have. And we've got some guys, the bright spot in what we went through last year with the injuries, we played a lot of sophomores, and we got ready to play Air Force, and 4 out of the starting 5, that was their first game they'd ever started, Ken. And that's why that might be less than ideal. Your Dean Powells and Noah Knapp's, and those guys really got some great, on the battle training, on the job training, and they ended up playing a lot of football, and we're going to be better off for it overall. I don't think we've had this many guys that we can feel comfortable putting in a game in the 6 years that we've been here, as far as the offensive line is concerned. And so, while we always want some guys to separate themselves and have a starting 5, that you feel solid about, I'm encouraged there's going to be a lot of competition for some spots as well, and really feel good about that. I don't think we've had this much competition in this being my 7th year here. We definitely haven't had this many guys that have an opportunity to put in a game. We've always said we'd like to have an opportunity to take a second offensive line and wholesale sub them. That would be ideal here, and it's something that I think we can accomplish. We're getting closer to that. It's something we hope to be able to do this year, because I think the more guys that play, the fewer reps they have accumulated throughout the season, and the better you are late in the year. And those are games we need to be able to win later in the season, and so that's something I'm excited about. Just the overall depth, and then also the health being better this year.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay, so we have Charles Grievous from GoBlackKnights.com.
Good morning, coaches. I guess I'll start with Coach Davis, and to kind of piggyback off of what Ken just asked. You have a lot of time to assess your personnel coming back offensively. What units do you feel most comfortable with in terms of what they bring to the table, and what unit do you feel needs a little more work, particularly if the training camp is to take place?
Sure. Well, I think that, first of all, the quarterback position, it was good to have some guys get experience last year. It's kind of like I talked about with the offensive line. I thought Christian Anderson played some really good football for us. Jabari Laws obviously played some really good football and continues to come back from his knee injury. Jamel Jones is another guy, and when he was forced in there, moved the team and showed us some glimpses of being a guy that can really contribute and be a good player. We've got Tyler coming back as well, who terrorized our defense as on the scout team last year, making plays, different position. And so we've got some guys there that really honestly just need reps. Jabari, we felt like really gave us another dimension there and more explosive than guys we've had in a long time at that position as far as, big plays, but also really did a great job throwing the ball. You go to the Air Force game, made some great throws, and we got guys running open. He threw the ball on time, so we feel like he can do both facets of the game, run and throw equally as well, and excited about that. The receivers are pretty experienced. Mike Johnson's been playing since he started as a freshman at times, and then You look at Cam Harrison, who this will be his 4th year starting. Guys that have played a lot of football. Veshay Danian got a chance to play some last year. Looks like he's going to be a really good player. Regan Donaldson is a young guy that's got a chance to really factor in. So I'm excited about those guys being solid. The slot back group, we've got R.T. Hobbs coming back, which is he's got a wealth of experience. He's basically started since he was a freshman. And then other than him, we've got some young guys that Brandon Walters, who's got some good game experience. And really, it's a situation there where those guys just need more reps. I think we've got a talented group in the slot back room. It's a good mix of young and old guys. Those guys in there have different skill sets. There's some guys. Brandon Walters, a really good receiver. You got Artis Hobbs, who might be more of a running back, an explosive guy. And then you've got a guy like Dominic DiStefano, who's a really good blocker and just a solid overall player. So they've got some different skill sets. The B-back room is I don't know if we'll ever have 5 at one time, where like we've had before, but we're getting closer to that, to having the different guys with different skill sets. Anthony Atkins is a guy, if you could see him right now, he's probably 250 pounds, and really was having an unbelievable offseason, and really excited to see him in spring ball, but won't get a chance to do that. But I know that he's going to be a guy going forward. He's just scratching the surface of what he can do physically. He's a specimen. He's a guy we really feel good about. Sandon McCoy's leadership and toughness. As the season went on last year, he really started to take an increased leadership role in the offense, and he got a lot better from game 1 to game 13. Unbelievable improvement in Sandon and the confidence that he played with. Feel like he's going to have a great year. You got Cade Barnard in that room as well, who's played some football for us, who's a physical blocker. Coach Vitti does a great job of developing those guys and then also using them in the right situations with their different skill sets. So that's a group that I think can be really strong. And then we talked about the O-line, and it's while we don't have 4 or 5 starters coming back, we've got a lot of guys that have played a lot of football. A guy I hadn't mentioned yet, Mike Johnson, who started some as a freshman and has been injured throughout his career, really came on at the end of last season, and is probably 100% healed now from his ACL injury that he had, and is a good leader in that room, and really leads by example, but also just his toughness. So I'm excited about him having a great year as well. That group's got a great attitude right now. I think they've got a little bit of an edge to them in terms of wanting to prove themselves, feeling like they didn't have the kind of year they wanted to last year, regardless of the circumstances, and want to kind of make amends going forward. And I can just sense that with them, that sense of urgency, and so looking forward to that.
Great. And just speaking about Sandon, any thoughts of him playing slot back at any time at all?
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily his skill set. Now, to do certain jobs, yes, but as far as leaving him in as a slot back, he's more of an explosive, straight-ahead guy, is a great fit at B-back. I don't think slot is necessarily his thing. Now, we've put him there in situations to be a blocker at times, especially when we've been in the shotgun and used him as kind of a wing to do certain things. But no, I think he's in the right spot right now.
Thank you. And for Coach Woody, just to piggyback off of Rich DeMarco's initial question about the 3-4 being the primary defense. Obviously, we went a 3-4 last year. Can you talk about the difference between your 3-4 and last year's 3-4, particularly, for example, the 2 outside linebackers, the Dog and the Apache? What are their roles? What's the difference between last year and your 3-4?
Hey Charles, I think one of the things that I've learned over the years was if I can get a more athletic defensive lineman against an offensive lineman, then I want to take advantage of that. And if I can take advantage of that by an attack style and get off of those blocks, then I'm going to be able to get some tackles for loss. I'm also going to be able to get to the quarterback better in the RPO game. And the RPO game has changed football drastically. Now you've got offensive linemen that are downfield actually blocking linebackers as receivers are running behind them to catch the ball. So if we can affect that quarterback, when he's pulling the ball out of the mesh and then trying to get rid of it, that's a tremendous help to your defense. All right. I guess the other thing as far as the dog and the Apache, it's not a whole lot of difference. I would like the dog to have a better pass rush skill set. I would rather the Apache have a little bit better coverage ability. But I think when I've been at my best, or my defenses have worked the best, is when I could just play one outside linebacker on one side of the field and the other outside backer on the other, and it doesn't matter if they're into the boundary or to the field. So when you can get athletes that can be equally as good at running by offensive linemen in a pass rush deal or coverage standpoint, then it sort of hides your where you're coming from. Does that make sense? If they don't know that your dog is the one that's coming the most of the time, if they have to worry that the Apache is the one that's coming, an equal amount of time, then that takes away some of the playbook, I think, from the offense. So we'll have different packages. That's the one thing that I took out of my year at Michigan with Coach Brown, was the more packages that you have, guys don't have to be able to execute everything in the defense. All they got to be able to do is execute what you ask them to do out of that particular package. And if I can get guys involved early on that know how to do one concept instead of all 10 concepts, then that guy can still continue to grow. He gets some reps earlier in his career rather than later. So that's the challenge that we have, is to create some competition during camp whenever we get started back again, and to see what skill set the different guys possess and get them into some of these different packages.